Welcome back, y'all. It is More to the Story, the podcast. I am your host, Jada Sharice, and honey, do I have some tea for you today. We are wrapping up my book, Brokeness That Made Me Whole, available on Apple, Kindle, Amazon, Books A Million, and all Chicago public libraries. Yes, come through. Just to recap, in section 1, I talked about boundaries. Becoming untouchable, unreachable, changing your number, girl, stop checking on his mama, and understanding that you cannot be friends during the healing process. In section 2, I discussed losing me. My character, my worth, dealing with stuff I didn't have to. I talked about what sex did. You can't get over him if you are still under him. Creating an unhealthy soul tie and confusing it with love. And I built your resume. Giving this man the necessary skills and experience just to watch him apply for another woman. I mean, you taught this man how to be in a relationship, how to keep a relationship, and he decided to take what he learned to another relationship? Girl, listen. Did I understand these things firsthand? Not at all. See, ladies, my feet were planted because I planted that seed. I deserve the goodness of what I was sowing. Come to think about it, I was preparing him for another woman, not even knowing. But when I tell you, ladies, everything happens for a reason, that some relationships are only for a season, that you have to close some doors so that new ones can open, let him be. Leave him where he at, girl, because there is definitely a blessing in the separation. You know what I learned? Let me slow it down a little bit now that I'm done with my rant. No, let me keep this rant going because I got more to say. What I learned is I fell in love with what I thought was love at a young age. But then a few years later, I fell in love with potential. Then when I was falling out of love, I started to fall for the history we had. So I kept making all these excuses, but at the time it was me trying. It was me trying to be with this person. It was giving hope. It was giving, me reasons to stay with him. It was me going back to that high school mindset and the feeling I used to get about him. But the older we got, the more we changed. The more we grew, but our intentions were different. Our reasons were different. The more we grew, the more we grew apart. I say this to say, be careful about falling in love with potential. Because, I feel like there are certain instances where you can fall in love with the potential of a person. You see the good in that person and maybe they just need a little shaping up, some advice, some guidance. I get that. But at the same time, you can't fall in love with potential that's really not there. You creating this illusion in your mind, and you not paying attention to the reality that's in front of you. Here's the thing. You can't change a man. You can't build a man when y'all in y'all 20-somethings. And I've learned that men are honest. Men are straightforward, and if you think he's confusing or don't know what he want, girl, he know what he want. No response is a response. If he wants to take you out, he'll ask. If he wants you to meet his mom, he'll suggest it. If he wants you to meet his friends, he'll plan it. And if he wants to talk, he'll call. If he wants to marry you, he will. So stop playing around with these little boys and get you a man. Now that I'm done with my rant, let's get into section 3. The last section of my book, Brokenness That Made Me Whole. This section is choosing love. Thinking back to when I first decided that I could no longer be friends with my ex and I was truly ready to be done, in no capacity was I ready to let anyone else in. I had been played in a relationship. I had been played in a situationship. Like, how do you get played in a situationship? What are you doing? And the next guy that I met, he was so sweet to me. He was so caring, and I thought it was so staged. Like, why are you being so nice? Why are you being so extra? Why are you checking on me to see if I made it home? Why are you opening my doors? I am so sick of these guys pretending to be something that they are not. Now, how ridiculous did I just sound, right? But when you've been hurt and you've been scarred, you can't tell the real from the fake. And it's truly not fair to the good men out there. I will say that. But what can we say? As women, we become defensive. We build a wall. We learn to protect ourselves. But I've also learned you have to take chances and pray hard for discernment, because I almost missed my blessing. The man I have now, baby, is the man I was praying for. The man I built a friendship with for 2 years. The man God specifically designed for me. The man of my dreams. And I don't want to sound all emotional, but the love is so real, y'all. The level up has been so real. I was at the point where I was thirsty to go speed dating because I felt like I was all out of options. I didn't know what to do. And I was looking up stuff like, you know what? Me and my girls, we just gonna go speed dating. I was at the point where I felt like my husband lived in a different country. That's how fed up I was with men in Chicago. And not even just my stories, but looking at what my friends went through. Like, men ain't... Listen, we were so done. But then I met a real man. And so many people ask, how did you know? So many strangers compliment the vibe that we have with each other, the way we treat each other, the way we love each other. Like, you can see the energy we have, and I am just so blessed. I knew because I never looked at him in a physical way, and I was used to choosing with my eyes. So I fell in love with his mind before I fell in love with anything else. I was in love with the man who had never touched me. I was in love with a man that I called my best friend. I was in love with a man who challenged me mentally. Here's to my very first poem that I wrote about him. It wasn't the way that he touched me. It was the way that he talked to me. It was the way that he looked at me, wanting to connect with me mentally. It was the questions he asked in return, the time he put in studying me, willing to learn. It was him repeating what I said to get a better understanding and to clarify. It was the effort he put in to get my attention, even though he was shy. It was the fact that he became my Webster dictionary. I went to him for the meaning of words, child. It was that one paragraph I would send and he would send 3 back voice audio style. It was him actively, passionately listening. Taking off my shoes, opening my doors, got me wanting to change my last name from Moore. This was a real man. You see, I appreciated his presence, and whenever I was available, he had time. The thing about it was never physical. It was always the mind. I craved the way he made me think, the way he educated me, the way he made me feel as a woman, mentally. And that's what I loved the most. It was so perfect because he was an intellectual and I'm a sapiosexual. I fell in love with his mind before I fell in love with anything else. Sounds familiar, right? That's my intro. Sapiosexual, the very first poem that I wrote, the intro of More to the Story of the podcast. Back to the story. I mean, God truly, truly looked out for my desires, even my wants, and more importantly, my needs. All of the things that I was praying for in a man and in a relationship, I made sure I became what I was asking for. Because sometimes we find ourselves asking for what we can't even reciprocate. And then you've been praying for this man, this certain, relationship and how you want to be treated. And now you can't keep that because you can't give that. So everything that you're asking for, you have to be able to give it as well. Like what sense does that make to ask for something that you can't even give? It's not fair to the other person, Believe it or not everybody was on board when I asked their advice about what I should do regarding me and him. They love us now, honey. But that's another story. No, I'm just kidding. I won't be messy. But guess what? Regardless of what they said, I did what Jada wanted to do. See, here's the thing. You can't let other people's opinions, perspectives, and experiences dictate yours. Go and see for yourself because everything is not for everybody. So to the people that gave me advice about him, I am so glad I didn't listen because you were wrong. As we close out section 3, choosing love, I want to encourage the ladies who are listening, those who have been following section 1, 2, and 3. You realize what I had to go through, all the bad, all the ugly, but you also see the good days that I have now. So that ugly past created something so beautiful. To close it out, I just want to let you know that sometimes we have to go through those dark moments and bad relationships. but every lesson is one to be learned. I went through a lot, but can honestly say good men still exist. They do. But you have to be willing to love again, falling for yourself first. You have to learn to be alone and not depend on anyone to make you happy. Because anyone you date should be a bonus to your happiness, not creating it. You have to understand that what you want is not always what you need. And you have to be willing to trust again. You have to understand that he is not your past. So stop making excuses, ladies. I know that we go through so much, but I want to encourage you that love always wins. I hope that you've enjoyed Brokenness That Made Me Whole. Again, it is available on Amazon, Apple Books, Books A Million, Kindle. I also have hard copies for those who know me personally. We can meet up. We can set it up because I want you to be blessed. I really do love my book. The feedback that I've received is just amazing. The love has been so real. The support has been so real. As we wrap up section 3, you know that there is always more to the story. Thank you to HausHill Media for always hosting. Thank you for those who are always listening and supporting. Until next time.
Wanting to connect with me mentally. It was the questions he asked in return, the time he put in studying me, willing to learn. It was him repeating what I said to get a better understanding and to clarify. It was the effort he put in.